Touch Freak, we want to welcome TSM's Special to the desk. Congrats on the win. The Thresh Bays have been quite crazy. Can we attribute it to the new haircuts you and Bjergsen have?
Sure, you could say that. I mean, I would think that it's partly because we've been practicing a lot.
All right.
But I mean, the haircut obviously is mainly it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So with that, going out getting haircuts together, trying to get the bonding, we've seen struggles in the 4.4 patch for Team Solomid. Talk to us about that.
Initially, it was mainly the 2v1s that we were trying to figure out ways to avoid 2v1ing, but we ended up pretty much saying that, okay, purple side, we're going to have to 2v1, we're going to have to invade, and we're going to have to just suck it up. And we actually don't like purple right now. I think purple has a huge disadvantage, and we actually only lose games on purple generally, like in scrims and stuff. I mean, we do lose on blue too, but purple generally has a disadvantage in that you have to pretty much 2v1, invade blue, go top. Yeah, not a big fan of that, but in these games, it isn't really the 2v1s. It's that because we're 2v1ing and we don't win lanes that early, it means that our transitions in the mid game and our Baron calls have to be on point in order for us to just snowball games. And we aren't able to do that yet. And it's a big problem for us, especially in this last game and the game before, actually.
Yeah, something that was interesting about this game is traditionally in the LCS this year, you guys have dominated all the lower teams, but Coast is the only one to beat you. And again, you guys kind of struggled against them. What happened in this game, and why do you struggle against Coast?
I don't think it's really Coast in general. It's really just the last few weeks. We haven't really been snowballing games at all. Only times we do is when we actually 2v2. And when you don't 2v2, Turtle and I, we aren't able to snowball our bot lane. You know, Darius isn't able to show off his top lane mechanics, and Bjergsen, you know, he's just Bjergsen. But overall, it's just that we don't have our lane, so we can't snowball early. So we have to snowball mid game, which is a lot harder, a lot more teamwork, and we didn't make the right calls. Like last game and in the game against EG, we just Baron was almost MVP in both these games, and that's not good. It's kind of showing just how bad we are at Baron, and it's something that Cloud9 has done way better than us, and it's something that we still need to strive towards. And in our next game against Cloud9, it's going to show if we don't do it correctly.
Well, let's look at some of where TSM really prevails, and that's Dragon Fights. 17 minutes here. We're going to pull up a replay where Bjergsen comes out with his triple kill on this one. What was the communication going into this fight, knowing that you guys are kind of struggling with this patch?
Honestly, right here, we were just trying to get position. So they were trying to start it. Usually when you start Dragon, you're at a disadvantage. We had more brushes. Triple came from the side, but luckily, Turtle died really early, but fortunately, he managed to do a little bit of damage, and Bjergsen was really strong here. Gragas, you think about game-changing ultimates. He had a pretty good ultimate there. And I think the really lucky thing was I managed to survive by, I don't know, I flashed.
Sneaky play.
Yeah, it was kind of lucky in a way, but at the same time, it's just one of the nice things about Thresh. It's just that you can do stuff like this, lose vision, and just run away, and he slowed, and Bjergsen, I was pretty much yelling at Bjergsen, hey, Bjergsen, can you please help me out here? Except not those nice words. And fortunately, he got there in time, and he managed to save me. So I was pretty happy with that. It looked pretty cool.
That was one of those mid-game team fights that you guys are going to actually have to excel on a little bit more, especially when you guys are facing up against Cloud9 later today. What's it like playing against Cloud9 now that you guys are battling for that first place spot?
It's really scary. It means that every mistake can really snowball the game. And it really hurts us because we feel like right now our objective and Baron control isn't good enough, so that even if we do get a couple kills early, it might not mean the end of the game. But if they do, it could mean the end for us. It's much like when we face foreign teams, like especially Korean teams in general. It's just that they are really good at snowballing, and even though we get ahead early, we're not able to do what they do. And then what happens is that we get a lead, we throw it, they win. They get a lead, they keep it, they win. And it's a really bad cycle for us, and it's something that we still have a really hard time breaking. And if we don't win early laning, like how we've been doing for most of the season, we have a hard time. And it's definitely showing in these last few games.
And speaking of Barons, it brings us into our next replay, I believe at 34 into this one. Special at the pit on Thresh. You had a big play here. Kind of speak to me what it's like being a Thresh at the pit and what your priorities are for this fight.
At the pit, they don't have vision of you. You have to land a hook, but at the same time, they can move out of the way, they can juke, they have time, and you're just like, okay, please land this hook. And I managed to land one, and I'm not sure Zion falls here, but we managed to get a couple ults down. Darius goes a little bit too deep, but fortunately, Shifter tries going too hard. He actually dies instantly, which is really good. I mean, sure, Darius dies, but Shifter was huge here. He didn't even get two charges. He only got one charge of his ultimate off, and luckily, we had some really good ultimates, good Jinx ult, and we just managed to clean him up. and I got Evelyn down, and it was actually really messy.
Oh, I
So
got
how do you guys clean these plays up there? So like in this last play in particular, what is something that like now watching it a second time, could you guys have done much better?
One thing was, it shouldn't have gotten that point in the first place. It was already 35 minutes in, and we had a much bigger lead, and that was slowly getting smaller and smaller. We were losing turrets bottom, we lost the turret mid to minions. It was a really bad situation. We just needed to clear out wards correctly, and then maybe not even go for Baron. Just like, go for top turret, mid turret, something like that. And we just didn't pressure correctly. We pressured wrong places, wrong times. We lost objectives, and it wasn't something that was just clean. It wasn't clean at all. And that's why it got to that point. And if we had done that 25 minutes instead of 35 minutes, a hook would win a kill. But at that point, Jax was so strong, he was able to tank everything, and he didn't die initially, and that was a problem. So pretty much, if we have a lead, we need to keep it, and that's just the big consensus with League of Legends. Is that you have a lead, you keep it, snowball it, you win the game.
All right, Special, as we close out the last few questions, definitely like to touch on what you call home in the bot lane and really the race for the best bot lane in NA. I wouldn't call it a race, but you guys...
The debate.
The debate, yeah. CLG, and we also have Lemon Nation and Sneaky from Cloud9 up there. What are your kind of thoughts on these power bot lanes, as people would call them?
So we each have different playstyles, I would say. With Cloud9 and Cloud9's bot lane, they kind of go for the more strategic. They go for a lot of CC, team fight heavy. They're willing to 2v1, stuff like that. When you play against CLG, you know they want a 2v2. If they know you want a 2v1, they're gonna follow you, and that's just the difference. It's for us, I don't know, we just kind of flip-flop. Sometimes we 2v1, sometimes we like to 2v2, and it's really depending on Turtle. Personally, I'm more of a, like, all right, we're just going to do the better thing. Turtle's like, all right, let's go 2v1. So we kind of have these arguments back and forth, but at the same time, it just shows that how different you can be, even though you're playing the same role. Even the champions are different. For example, Aframi, always Thresh. If it's up, he'll pick it. You go to Lemon, he's probably going to pick Karma. Don't tell him this, but we think he's going to pick Karma. And...
He wasn't.
Maybe he won't. Oh, yeah, I don't think so at all. Not at all. But that's just the difference in playstyle and difference between bot lanes. It's hard to compare. I think if every bot lane had the 2v2, I think CLG or us would probably be one of the best. But since the current situation is that you often 2v1, I mean, there's team fights involved too. So C9 is actually really, really good at all of those.
Yeah, and I always kind of look at you guys as the more almost rounded bot lane of all of them. And I did want to get your thoughts on Cloud9's bottom lane that they debuted yesterday, because last season they did the Zyra Ashe. And this one was Corki Karma. It's a little bit different. Just what are your thoughts on that lane? It feels like a high damage lane to me.
Okay, so they did really well in the first game, I believe, against maybe XTG. I forget who.
Yeah, it was XTG.
Yeah, and then their second game, they had a really tough time. They were against CLG's bot lane, which was a Thresh Lucian. So pretty much when I watch Karma Corki, it's that their level 1 is strong, but Thresh and Lucian are stronger. And what they need to do as the Corki Karma is just get a couple levels in. Get level 2, get level 3, and then you're really, really strong. But unfortunately, Thresh and Lucian are so strong that they're able to bully out C9's bot lane. And honestly, purple side disadvantage kind of comes in. It's that they had to, they had to just check brushes. They had to, help them with blue or whatever. It's just that purple side, it's almost always better to just 2v1, just go top and just go invade there. And hopefully teams that play against us don't know that, but that's why we don't really like purple. It's that we kind of are forced to 2v1. I mean, you don't have to, but it's kind of preferable.
I understand.
All right, Special. Thank you very much. Congratulations on the win, and best of luck to both TSM and Cloud9 in the match later today.
Thank you.
All right, in our next match, Curse faces off against